first meeting. We are meeting both at BWB Building, which is at 201 West 3rd Street, Jamestown, New York, in the second floor boardroom, and at Fredonia Technology Incubator, 214 Central Avenue, Dunkirk, New York, in the second floor conference room. This will be electronically streamed via stream on YouTube and Zoom. It is June 28, 2022. It is 10:01 a.m. and we do have quorum. I will take a roll call, please. Mike Metzger is here. Kevin Muldowney. Jay Churchill.
Here.
Rhonda Johnson.
Here.
Gary Henry.
Here.
Brad Walters.
Here.
Dennis Rack.
Here.
Let the right.
Officer.
Oh, Hans Sauer.
Here.
Thank you. Let the record show that there are 8 members present. We have quorum. I would like to entertain the approval of the May 24th, 2022 minutes that you have previously received. Thank you, Jeanette. Do I have a motion? So moved by Dennis and seconded by Kevin. Thank you for those people. Are there any changes, corrections, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried unanimously. I would like to ask our County Executive, PJ Wendell, who is, thank you, always frequents our meetings, so we much appreciate it. And for, if you'd like to make a statement at this time.
Certainly. So I'm going to remember to look at the camera, not at the television, so I don't let them get in the back of my head. Now, but thank you for the opportunity. I can't stress enough. You know, we've been out. You see the projects in Americold. You see other developments that are happening here in Chautauqua County. You know, it's easy to criticize when something fails with the IDA, but I think that's short-sighted. I think we need to look at the vision, the plan, what the board is doing, what Rich, Kayla, Mark, the whole group is doing to promote economic development here in the county and moving, you know, our industry forward. And again, I'm excited. I'm proud. The hardest part, as you all know, is, you know, these projects that are baking in the oven and when we're actually able to share them with the community. Because recently there's been, you know, I've been out to places and, you know, what's going on in the county? I don't see much going on. Like, you know, I liken it. I've told people it's a lot like a swan. You know, we look good on the top of the water, but you don't realize the business going on underneath and how fast people are pedaling. And everybody at this table understands that, and people viewing understand as well. So again, for myself personally, and I can't say enough thank you. The relief knowing that this activity is happening, this economic development, growth of our industries, and making, you know, opportunities for people to come to Chautauqua County, start their business, and grow our economy is huge. So on behalf of myself and the residents who are thanking you every year when we come up with our budget, and we know the funding is there based on, you know, sales tax revenue, you know, what our businesses are doing for us, I appreciate it. Always look forward to these meetings and being part of it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief Executive, County Executive PJ Wendell, and thank you for your continued support and your kind words. Much appreciated. Now I will ask Rich Dixon, our treasurer, to introduce we have some guests present.
Yes, thank you, Mike. We have with us today 3 members at our board meeting from the Authority Budget Office who are in the second day of their compliance audit. And June, would you like to introduce yourself and your other teammates for me?
Sure. My name is June Gilroy. This is Terry Demole and John Gula from the Authority's Budget Office.
Thank you, June.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for attending. Let's move to new business, please. We have our first new business A is being presented by both Mark Geis and Nate Aldrich, who are present at the incubator. Mark, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think we all recognize that the county has a lot of brownfields. Brownfields are sites that were previously used for industrial purposes. In some cases, they may have some level of contamination or not. They could have even suspected levels of contamination. And for a couple of years now, we've actually been actively looking at those sites and identifying them and evaluating them. And certainly one of the sticking points in terms of getting those into active use is doing the environmental due diligence on those brownfields, number one, and also then remediating them. And certainly developers looking at those sites are don't always have the funding, the cash available to go and do that. So one of the programs that the Environmental Protection Agency offers every year is a grant cycle to apply for funding to establish a brownfield revolving loan fund and grant program. Nate has taken the lead on applying. We've applied for 2 years, one for the RLF, I think that was 2 years ago. I think it's every other year. And then one last year was environmental brownfields assessment program, I believe. And we were rejected those 2 years. This year, we got the grant. It's a $600,000 grant. There's a match requirement. The county is, through our capital projects funding, is providing a cash match. And then the IDA, to administer the program, is providing in-kind match. So it ends up being about a $720,000 program. And it will, again, provide, it's a revolving loan fund, so we get paid back part of it will be, could be a grant. So we haven't worked on all the details of exactly what that looks like. We did submit a work plan a couple of days ago to the EPA. It's modeled after Niagara County's very successful brownfields revolving loan fund. They've had an active program for years. We're excited about this to, start working on getting these brownfields back into active use. You want to add to that, Nate?
No, Mark, I think you're just about hit on all points, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Nate?
Do we have any specific sites that are looking for this already?
As part of our EPA grant application, we did identify and prioritize sites for the requirements of the application, but we are not bound by those sites. We took a look at both the Daytown and Dunkirk brownfield opportunity areas boundaries, and using our existing inventory as developed in the last several years with consultant support and assistance. All those details will come to light later this fall when we formally roll out the program, develop the application, and there's certainly eligibility requirements and an EPA review to make sure specific sites are eligible. We're still shifting through all those details.
I think unfortunately, given our county, you probably have a lot of sites to choose from.
We do.
Yes. Yeah. Good question.
So the thing about brownfield sites, obviously, well, not in every case, but in almost every case, they're located in areas where they already have the infrastructure. So it's not like in the greenfield that you got to extend water and sewer, which can be very expensive. They're already zoned correctly. Typically, the neighbors are used to, activity there, or we're used to it. So it's not like a big shock for the neighborhood. So there's a lot of advantages at looking at brownfields. Unfortunately, a lot aren't that big. We're looking for big sites, but, there are certainly really attractive sites for us to be concentrating on.
Excellent. Any other questions of Mark or Nate? And thank you for being so successful in acquiring this grant.
That's neat.
Our superstar grant writer, Nate, so thank you very much. Great job. Dennis, if you could please move new business A.
Resolution 06-28-22-06 of the members of the County Industrial Development Agency that grant funds from the United States Environmental Protection Agency to establish a brownfield revolving loan fund and approving entry into various agreements to launch such program.
Thank you, Dennis. Do I have a second? Thank you, Kevin. Motion made by Dennis, seconded by Kevin. Any further discussion or questions of Mark or Nick? Hearing none, I will have a roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Hans Sauer.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Gary Henry.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Dennis Rath. Aye. Let the record show 8 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you and good luck. New business B is going to be introduced by Rich and Millen.
So Rosie's on vacation, so you'll have to put up with me today. I apologize for that. But resolution B, C, and D are 3 solar farms. And they will be explained in more detail by Nathan and Adam Rizzo, who are joining us today from Solar Liberty. The first project is 3.92 megawatts in the town of Portland. Richard Lewis, the town supervisor, is very much in favor of the project. The town was lead agency, and the second project is 3.6 megawatts. Again, the town was lead agency, and they approved it. So we have a couple resolutions for those that Millen's going to talk about after Nate and Adam speak. And the third project is we're just doing a preliminary due diligence resolution for SL Fredonia, which is a 4.68 megawatt project in the town of Pomfret. Dan Pecos is in favor of the project, the town supervisor, and the town will also be the lead agent. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Nathan and Adam Rizzo from Solar Liberty, and they can talk about all 3 of those projects, and then we would take the resolutions next, Mike, if that's okay.
Morning, and thank you very much for having us on today. Would you like to get started with the SL Portland sites? Would that be best to start with?
Yes.
So for SL Portland, we have 2 projects as mentioned. We have SL Portland Array 1, which is located on Main Street in the town of Portland. It's set back by the railroad tracks. We worked with the town of Portland to avoid any gravelly loam soil, which is best for grape growing. And we found opportune spots where it limits the impact from both a visual aesthetic perspective from the town. It also sets the systems back away from the majority of homes. And we work quite readily with the town of Portland to develop projects that make most sense in these particular areas. Both systems are fixed tilt 20-degree racking systems. And from a visual aspect perspective, we have a condition to our permit that the town will work with the town a year after the installation of the projects to put any visual screening up or vegetative buffers that they may want to isolate the system from certain perspectives. But as of now, we don't really. There may be glimpses of the system from certain portions, but the systems in their entirety are not readily visible from public roadways and neighboring homes.
Thank you. Yeah, and then if you wanted to, Adam and Nate, talk about Fredonia a little bit, that project as well.
Okay, thank you. So SL Fredonia is located on Route 60 at the crossroads of Eagle Street and Route 60. It's across the road from those crossroads. It's set back from Route 60 approximately 200 feet. We worked with the town of Pomfret to design a system to have limited visual from the public roadways and also any of the homes. This portion of Route 60 is quite open land, but the topography lends itself quite well to hiding the majority of the system from public views. We're looking for that particular project. It is a fixed tilt. Modules are mounted at 20 degrees, and we'll be looking to interconnect at the sub-transmission lines that run perpendicular to the property. So what's particularly nice about this project is we don't need to come to Route 60 for interconnection purposes. So the entirety of the system, the facility, the interconnection point, everything is very well defined in the area of the solar project.
Great.
And again, we work with the town, and at this point, based upon our renderings and our visual assessments, there will not be any vegetative buffers for this particular location.
Nate or Adam, could you talk briefly about the President Biden when he decided not to put the tariffs on the panel, what that means for projects in the United States and for you guys, that he postponed that for 2 years? Can you explain to the board what the impact that might have had and now what's happening without it?
Nathan, if you don't mind. Good morning, this is Adam Rizzo. Thank you for having us today. Rich, that's a great question. We were a bit caught off guard earlier this year with potential tariff on solar panels being imported that no one was anticipating, and it threw the solar industry for a bit of a loop because everyone was scared to import solar panels because you didn't know what the potential tariffs were going to be on the equipment, and it could be retroactive as well. So it pretty much put a pause on every project being developed and looking to construct until that was resolved. So recently, the administration put a 2-year hold on any new tariffs for the solar panels, allowing solar projects to move forward and have some certainty with what the potential cost implications would be for that solar equipment. So it's been a great thing for the industry, and solar panels are starting to be imported again into the U.S. There's just not enough solar panels being produced in the U.S. at this time to fulfill the demand for the industry. We hope that will change as more both domestic and foreign corporations are looking to expand their domestic production here in the United States. But at this time, there just isn't enough capacity to support the industry. So we still need to import and use panels from overseas at this time.
Okay.
So.
Thanks, Adam.
Adam, it's Hans. Just a quick question. How about supply chain issues? Do you see them pushing back potential completion dates, and how have you been able to manage some of the global supply chain issues? I wonder if that's hit you directly, and then now with the shutdown again in China, maybe talk a little bit about that and how that affects your business.
Yeah, it definitely has had, it's pushed, thank you for the question, it's a good question. It's definitely pushed our completion dates out for our projects, unfortunately. Equipment that used to be readily available within 3-4 weeks, we're now seeing many weeks for us to get equipment. Some of the transformers and different pieces of equipment are 52 weeks from the time you order them. So those types of things have been very difficult to manage. It's also resulted in price increases for us on many of these electrical components and just labor and general things. All aspects of projects really have increased in terms of the cost implications. So we're still, working on ways to make these projects happen and for them to pencil out, but it definitely has had an impact on all of us and the industry overall.
Thank you.
Adam, this is Mark Ice. Maybe you could speak to the decommissioning plans for these projects?
Sure. I'll let Nathan, would you like to handle that?
Sure. So the decommissioning plans, town contract had us follow, Chicago County's language from a perspective of a decommissioning bond that will be reviewed every 4 years. Similarly, we'll have to put together a decommissioning bond for the SL Portland projects. But the overall impact of the projects from a construction perspective are very limited, from concrete use to anything that will really disrupt the project once it becomes time to decommission the systems. We're looking to utilize driven piles, so the vertical posts that hold the solar modules are going to the ground for the mounting system are post-driven, so those are very easy to remove, along with very little use of concrete. So the only concrete located on the projects will be at the transformer pads. So again, very limited amount of space. That'll be easy to remove once the systems have served their useful life. And then the conduit and wiring, again, it is something that can be easily removed, but all aspects of the system, I know from a decommissioning bond perspective, the county and the local municipalities don't want to see recycling costs included in the overall decommissioning costs. But all of the equipment really is recyclable. Consists of steel, aluminum, glass, copper. So it's very, once the system served its useful life, all of the goods can be recycled and put back into different industries.
What is the typical life of these projects?
So we tend to look at the warranty from a solar module perspective. The solar panels have a 25-year warranty. They're made up of silicon, so silicon in its most basic form is quartz sand. So if you think back to chemistry class, silicon, so the silicon cell is an element. It has a half-life. So these solar panels do tend to degrade. They'll degrade about 2% in year one and 0.2% every year thereafter. So even after a 25-year warranty period, the modules are going to be producing about 10% less power. So really, from a viable lifespan perspective, we're looking at a viable lifespan of 30 to 35 years for the solar modules themselves. Some of the electrical equipment, such as the transformers, you can just look to the utilities. There's some transformers still in use for medicine. So there is a longevity to the systems. Depending on how the solar systems are performing and efficiency improvements, there may be opportunities to keep the systems energized for a very, very long time, depending if the county and the local municipalities would still allow the solar project to be energizing the grid.
Thank you. And we have to thank Nathan, yourself, and Adam for your continued commitment to Chautauqua County and our economic development, because these are just some of many projects that you have in our county. So we can't thank you enough. Millen, would you like to entertain the deviation hearing, please?
Happy to, Mr. Chairman. I would first point out that we should deal with these as the Portland 2 projects together, because they're a little bit out of sync with the Fredonia project. So we'll deal with them separately. And the reason for that is the practice of the board has been to not move these projects forward, any solar projects forward, unless and until the town has given their either formal or informal go-ahead. So, for example, that's why the Fredonia project is behind, in terms of the timing, the 2 Portland projects. And I think you'll see that with all of the solar projects we've done and are doing, is that there are very often times when a developer comes with more than one project, but they are out of phase, if you will, because we only move them forward at that rate. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to do the deviation hearing for both the Solar Liberty Portland Route 20/Main Street and the Solar Liberty Portland Face Street projects together. Notice of the deviation hearing was sent to each of the affected tax jurisdictions. We've received no written correspondence from any of the affected tax jurisdictions. So at this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone who would like to speak in favor or against or otherwise with regard to either of those 2 projects. Hearing none, I would like to close the deviation hearings on both the Solar Liberty Portland Route 20 Main Street and Solar Liberty Face Street. So I think, Mr. Chairman, we are ready to do the resolutions. We can take them together if you like, or do them separately.
Let's take them separately, since it would reflect our agenda.
Okay.
So,
Well, Mike, I just want to stop you there. We have grouped the resolutions by company, so we could do by project. So there are 2 resolutions for each project. So we had planned to take them together, and they are listed together.
yes, yes. So we'll be doing, thank you, Nolan, for conducting the deviation hearing. I'll ask Kevin to move new business B3, both of those resolutions.
Resolutions 06/22-22-01, deviation approval resolution. Main Street resolution 06-22-22-02, final approving resolution. Main Street.
Thank you, Kevin. Do we have a second? Thank you, Dennis. We've had it moved by Kevin, seconded by Dennis. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, I guess, summarize both of these. The first is the deviation resolution, as we just did the deviation hearing. Again, this is a fairly typical pilot. It's $3,500 per megawatt over 25 years, as we just discussed, with 2% annual increases. And that's sort of becoming right in the ballpark of what we've done for others. The second is the final approving resolution. We've had the public hearing. SECRA, as was mentioned, was done by the town. The IDA was named as an involved agency, so we are bound by the town's negative declaration that there is no significant adverse economic, environmental impact on the project. So if both of those are approved, this will be the final approval by the board, and we will work with the applicant's counsel to put all the documents in place and sign them and close probably in the next few months.
Thank you, Nolan. Appreciate that clarification.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. Your resolution does set forth the amounts, the estimated amounts of each of the types of financial assistance, which is real property, mortgage recording tax, and sales tax. Your resolution also includes a map to show where these projects are, as well as the economic impact calculation. And with that, I'm done. Probably.
For now, you're done. Thank you, Millen. Any questions of Millen or Rich or Nathan or Anna regarding these exciting projects? All right, hearing none, roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Tom Sauer.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney. Aye. Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Gary Henry.
Aye.
Brad Walters. Dennis Rath. Let the record show, 8 votes in the affirmative, motion carried unanimously. All right, now let's move to, if I could please have Gary Henry move new business C5. Those two resolutions, please.
Resolution 06-28-22-03, deviation approval resolution, Route 20, and Resolution 06-28-22-04, final approving resolution, Route 20.
Thank you, Gary. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Dennis. Motion made by Gary, seconded by Dennis. Millen, please.
But this is almost parallel to the last set of resolutions that you did. Again, the economic assistance is set forth in the resolution. This is the first project that Rich mentioned. This is on Route 20, also known as Main Street, the 3.92 megawatt project. Again, we had the deviation hearing a few minutes ago. The same pilot, $3,500 per megawatt, 25 years, 2% increases. Same thing with CCIDA, town lead agency, so we are bound by it. And if approved, we will move this forward. This will be the final approving by the board.
Thank you, Millen. Any questions of Millen? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Tom Sauer.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney. Aye. Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Gary Henry.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Dennis Rath. Aye. Let the record show, 8 votes in the affirmative, motion carried unanimously. Now I will ask Tom Sauer, if you could please move new business D2, please.
Resolution 06-28-22-05, due diligence resolution and agreement, SL Fredonia.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Motion made by Hans, seconded by Kevin. Millen, please.
This is a due diligence resolution only, doesn't bind or commit the board in any way, but it expresses that the board has enough interest that they are directing staff and council to start conducting due diligence. Before this comes back to the board, we will hold a public hearing. We will do SECRA, and again, we understand that the town is going to assume lead agency status, so their SECRA finding would be binding on the IDA. We would talk to the applicant about a pilot, and assuming that it deviates from your UTEP, we would send the pilot deviation notice, and come back to the board and do a pilot deviation, and we would work with the applicant on other due diligence. So for example, if there's any questions that any of you have that you wanted to ask of the applicant, we would do so, including things like, the decommissioning, or anything else that the board has in mind. And then we would come back to the board, hold a deviation hearing, and look for final approval, and it may well be as early as the July meeting. But this does not bind the board, it just authorizes and instructs us to conduct that due diligence before coming back to you.
Thank you, Millen. Any questions of Millen? Roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Tom Sauer.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney. Aye. Jay Churchill,
Aye.
Wanda Johnson,
Aye.
Gary Henry,
Aye.
Brad Walters,
Aye.
Dennis Rack. Let the record show, we had 7 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention, motion carried. Now we will move to the new business E, the loan workout policy, which, for your information, was approved by the governance committee. Rich Dixon, please.
Yes, thank you, Mike. So, at the recommendation of our auditors and to clean up some practices, particularly that started during COVID, we've made some tweaks to our, that's not me, made some tweaks to our, some of the, how we handle our loans and how we handle the write-off. So, the policy will be changed for all of our loan funds. The first change would be that were just some grammatical changes that Mark had done, and then we have we had said before that the maximum term for working capital would be 7, the maximum term for machinery and equipment would be 10, and the maximum term for real estate loans would be 20. We've added a qualifier there that these terms are subject to change based on the CCIDA Board of Directors' discretion. So if a special circumstance came up, somebody needed 25 years or 8 years or whatever, that would allow them to do that. The next change is, as Millen described it, that we are, on the loan workouts, the board is authorizing the project manager, the CFO portfolio administrator, which is me, the controller, and the CEO to work out interest-only, forbearances, term changes with individuals that are having problems. This came to the forefront during COVID, as you all know. It was amazing the number of forbearances we did and the number of interest-only we did. And again, as Kayla will report later, we're happy to say that 99% of those people are back paying, and it's great. But that gives the board is authorizing us to do that. And the last change is, though, that the board, all loan write-offs will be approved by the board. So we won't write off a loan until we bring it to the board and explain to them why, that we've gotten everything we can collateral-wise and there's nothing more to get, and we feel it's time to write it off. So those are the changes, and those were all approved by the governance committee, Mike. That's all I have.
Great. Questions of Rich? Again, this was approved by the governance committee. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve our modified loan workout policy as presented by Rich. Thank you, Dennis. Do I have a second? Motion made by Dennis, seconded by Kevin. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried unanimously. I will move to new business F, and this will be presented by Christine.
I just wanted to add, though, Mike, that for Nathan and Adam, if they didn't want to stay, they didn't have to. But we know you're busy, and we appreciate you being with us today. So thank you.
I apologize, but usually most people want to stay the whole day.
We're committed to Chautauqua County, we'll do what it takes.
Here you go.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again for your commitment to Chautauqua County.
We appreciate very much all of the support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Christine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This discussion is just for informational purposes to make the board aware that the CCIDA has received a lead application, which is our sales tax only abatement program from a new entity called Xmas Dave LLC. Xmas Day LLC is owned by Dave Gordon of County, New York, who is purchasing a former tree baking products facility located at 18 Main Street in Silver Creek. The application and benefits were approved by the transaction committee on June 22nd, 2022. The application, meeting minutes, and cost benefit analysis were provided to you in your board meeting documents in advance of the meeting. Again, it's for sales tax abatement. The project budget is $350,000, not including the acquisition. And the requested benefits were for up to $28,000 in sales tax exemption. This will be at their 130,000 square foot facility, again located at 18 Main Street in Silver Creek. They are projecting 5 construction jobs related to the renovations and improvements of the building. And very conservatively, they're projecting 6 full-time permanent jobs ranging in payroll from $30,000 to $50,000 per year plus benefits. The permanent jobs will be established in the first year and will remain the same in future years. In terms of secret review, this was a type 2 secret with no further action needed. The timeline, they have already purchased the building. They're ready to begin making improvements as soon as possible. With phased in cleanup and improvements that are projected to be completed by June of 2020. As mentioned, we also performed a cost benefit analysis for this project, and the benefit to cost ratio was 36:1. Excellent return on investment, if you will.
This will be transformation for the town, so.
Yeah, in recent years, this has been, this building has been owned by a regional company that has used this space for warehouse distribution and storage with one part-time property manager. And so that's been for, going on 10 years now. So there'll be a lot more activity, a lot more jobs downtown. And I do know that they're planning to keep filming and make property improvements also.
Yes.
So yes, it's right in the heart of Silver Creek on the street, so it will be, as you say, transparent.
But, I'd like to add, Mr. Chairman, that, people have asked me, well, what happened to Petrie Baking? I thought they were coming back, and, in 2020, Mr. Huffy, he had announced plans to purchase the building and reopen it, making cookies again, and we worked with him. We provided a lot of technical assistance. Christine did. We lined them up with assistance from the state. We approved, incentives through the IDA. And then he was sort of at the 5-yard line, ready to punch it across, and that's about when COVID hit. And so because of that, because of supply chain issues, he was concerned about workforce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It delayed things, and then he just decided to pull the plug on it. And then in the meantime, the building sold. Mr. Gordon bought it. He's very established. He's got a successful, Western New York business, and so he's gonna, do warehousing distribution out of it. So we think it's a good outcome for the facility. He's going to invest in it, and save that building. So that's the backstory.
If I could add, so Dave Gordon owns 2 very popular websites, Christmas.com and ChristmasCentral.com. And they provide fulfillment services for major retailers that we're all familiar with. I won't name them here. I'm not sure if you want me to, but major retailers where, those are like Christmas decorations, that's where you're purchasing your Christmas decorations. They're being built through this business. And so, for his own websites and then also for major retailers. And so part of that's going to happen right in Silver Creek in Chicago County.
Great. Excellent project. Thank you. Any questions for Christine or Mark?
Mr. Chairman, may I, add that there's no action to be taken by the board. That is, this is the LEAD program that the board approved a couple of years ago. And this is, I believe, the third time that we're doing this LEAD program. And it was enacted, as most of the board recalls, to give sales tax only for smaller projects that they weren't big enough to bear all the time, cost, and expense of a full pilot application, et cetera. So as long as it is interior renovations, as Christine mentioned, that would make it a type 2 action under SECRA, and therefore no further action is needed. And as long as the financial assistance is under $100,000, and therefore under the GNL, we don't need a public hearing or a specific board resolution, the board has approved this program. So what happens is the transactions committee, an application comes in, project manager reviews it, transactions committee approves it, and that's sort of the end of the story, except that we report back to the board after each one of these, and if the board has any direction or comment or anything else, then the transactions committee would act appropriately. So this is really just a reporting back and to get any further guidance or feedback from the board on this application or the program in general. But there's no action to be taken right now.
Thank you, Norman. And I believe we have another project that will be introduced similarly. Any questions for Christine or Mark? Okay, let's move to new business G, which will be presented by both Rich and Dylan.
So again, I apologize. This is another one of Rosie's projects, but I'll try to do my best. So Mastag LLC has 3 subsidiaries. They have the barn at Farmington Hollow, which provides outdoor venues for wedding and events. They also have cabins at the Hollow, which are for visitors coming in. And they also have a farm and market. They sell produce, poultry, and maple syrup. So we received a tax lease pilot application for a new event pavilion, which can accommodate weddings and events. Approximately 4,000 square feet. It's in the town of Cherry Creek. The town supervisor is very excited. We did a short environmental assessment form, and we determined that this was an unlisted action. So seeker was done before it started. And we have they applied for a tourism tax lease pilot application, which is part of our uniform tax exempt policy. Project cost was $589,000. We hope to create 5 FTEs in year 1, 8 FTEs in year 2, and 9 FTEs by year 3. Alyssa Percruel was on the phone with us and at the transaction committee, and she was dressed as a working farmer because I think when she got done, she had to go feed the goats and the pigs and whatever. But fabulous project there. They bring a lot of people to the community she says, from all over, not just you think Ohio, and they get people from New Jersey, and they stay in the cabins. And I know PJ was up there not too long ago and took the tour, and it's just a fabulous place, and they were just excited that we could help them make this a reality. So, Milton, you want to talk about what happened at the transaction committee?
And again, there's no action before the board today. This is really just reporting back. And to back up a step, as I think we all recall, the typical first step in a pilot project, this is not under the LEADS program. This is bigger than that. It's going to be a regular, typical pilot. The first step is usually a due diligence resolution. The board also has authorized a transactions committee to act in lieu of the initial due diligence resolution. And that's typically for smaller projects and or projects that have a specific timing issue. So in this case, the transactions committee met and gave the initial go-ahead to go through the same due diligence that we would do on any other project. So the due diligence steps that I talked about before with the POMFRET are exactly what we will do here. So the transactions committee approved going forward. As Rich mentioned, it is tourism. So it falls under your tourism destination definition, attracts a significant number of visitors from outside the economic development region. Therefore, there will not be a deviation from your UTEP. It is such a small project that it is going to be a type 2, so seeker won't be an issue, but we will still conduct the due diligence, do a public hearing, and then come back to the board. The board obviously still has final authority. This really is just reporting back and getting any feedback from any of the board if there's any questions or due diligence that you want us to conduct. They've asked for mortgage reporting tax pursuant to your UTEP and sales tax and mortgage reporting tax. So again, when we wrap it all in a bow, we would come back presumably at the July meeting and ask for full board approval. So there's really no action. We just want to get any feedback from any of the board members or any members of the public as to this project.
Thank you, Millen. And meeting with it's basically a family-run business, and they're very hands-on in the operations. Also, this is on both the snowmobile trail and the horse trails. So it's definitely, pardon?
I said I worked on those.
I was going to say, thanks to Mark Geist, though both that trail is extremely successful and brings a lot of people outside our region as they, I believe they're boarding horses, they're doing everything. So questions for Rich or Miller? All right, again, two very exciting projects, transformational for the area and great for economic impact. Let's now move to the Executive Director's report. Mark, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be quick. Three things real quick. There was a ribbon cutting for Americold last week. Americold, of course, we all know is 181,000 square foot cold storage facility located in the town of Dunkirk on Route 60. Over $40 million invested there. 90% of the capacity is going to be for Wells. We helped Wells, of course. They did a $90 million renovation there, if you will, new equipment, etc. And the event, the county executive was there. He spoke. I spoke at it. It was just really exciting, and what an exciting day to be able to stand there and look at this incredible facility. Christine was there. Christine did all the heavy lifting on it from an IDA perspective, and just really thrilling day. So I wanted to thank the board and everyone that supported that project, and congratulate all of you. The second thing I wanted to just mention that, the county received almost $25 million from the American Rescue Plan Act, and we worked with the committee under the leadership of County Executive Wendell to establish projects. 43 projects were approved in the plan by the legislature. One of those projects was $400,000 allocated for business assistance. And there's really three different things that we did with that. One was we provided grants to businesses and not-for-profits, they run the gamut, to assist and help them with upgrading their marketing. So it could be anything from social media, the website development, the signs, the branding, etc. We work in partnership with the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and the Chamber of Commerce. We did the marketing, and we had a list that unfortunately we weren't able to serve all. We've got sort of a pipeline, and we're going to continue to work on that. But we were able to help 35 businesses. It averaged over $8,000 per business. And I have heard from a lot of people that have gotten back to me and said, thank you so much. I don't know how else we would have done this. We've needed to do this for years. We haven't had the money to do it. It's sort of, that's the last thing, you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your employees. Marketing sometimes falls by the wayside, and this provided the funding for them to do what they needed to do. So 35 businesses, that was really awesome. The other things that we did, we're working with Insight Consulting to implement ESG, environmental, social, and governance practices within their up to 5 companies, to work with them directly to really take a close look at the ES and the G to improve their company culture, to help them retain and attract employees. They're also doing and I read the draft a few days ago, a kind of a do-it-yourself manual, if you will, assessment tool, where companies that don't necessarily want to work with an insight to do this, deep dive, can look at these things themselves and work on these practices. But it's something that, it's been on our radar. I know that Hans has brought it up a number of times, and, it's an important thing on many levels. Thirdly, we're working also as part of that, again, all part of this $400,000 with Invest Buffalo Niagara on their economic gardening program. And they're going to help up to 5 companies that are sort of at the second level companies that are sort of companies that have established a good brand and their market and are ready to sort of go to the next level. And they kind of come in there and they help them to sort of get to that next level. We're working with 2 companies now in Chautauqua County, something they've done in Niagara County, Erie County, and they really wanted to do it here. And they've got 2 companies that they're working with now. And so we're excited about that too. And then thirdly, I just wanted to remind everyone that Thursday, we're celebrating the CCIDA's 50th anniversary with the Tart Skunks. At 5 o'clock is when the food is, when we're having dinner, 5 o'clock at the Jamestown Field, and then at 6 o'clock or 6:30 is when the game starts. So please come, it's open to the community. We hope that the community comes. We hope that you all come, that you bring your families, and we look forward to celebrating on that special day. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything, but.
No, it's, as always, we've got a lot going on and it's exciting and the swamp, we've got to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, Rich Dixon, the treasurer's report, please.
Yes, Mike, you have in front of you the financial documents. The first thing we will review is the balance sheet as of 5/31. I'd like to point out that the cash position is very good for everyone. I want to talk briefly about the Alltech and the CRLF. We have almost $1.8 million in cash there as we were dispersing the CARES Act loan money, which we have committed and dispersed, I believe, $10 million on the button, if not a little more as of this date. So we met our goal there, and I want to thank Kayla and all the staff for their hard work on that. But we do have some Alltech money and some CRLF money. With the rise in interest rates, we didn't see a whole lot of people borrowing before it on the traditional side of our lending because a lot of them had money. They had federal money, they had PPP money. Where that goes from here, I'm not sure with the rise in interest rates, but have had a few calls lately where the bank is asking us to participate, so I think that's a good sign. CD rates continue to be horrible, Hans, as the banks have so much money that they don't want any more money, so they're not raising their CD rates. And that's just the way of the world with the banks right now. So that's on that. That's really all I wanted to point out there. Continue to pay down our debts on the Stoneman Spec building and the other building, and we will be talking about Calcott Street a little later. I'll turn now to the profit and loss statement. Again, at this point, everybody's in the black. The CARES Fund, we've recognized 1.5 million so far this year. We're going to recognize a lot more in the last month here as Kayla has, again, we've done a good job. We've got a lot of closings in the last week. We've been keeping Phillips Lytle busy. And as we talked before, that loan fund will convert to the old rules as of 7/1. So the cash flow is coming back pretty good from that, as we've had, even though the interest rate is 2.44%, a lot of them are shorter term working capital loans, so the payments are coming in, and we'll have some money to lend there as well. Mark talked a little bit about the ARPA fund and what the grants that we're administering for the county there, and same with the trail. So this format's a little different than it has been. Kayla and I took a training session from the MIP consultant who's coming back again today, and we're going to implement a budgeting module for this. Currently, the budget is done by me on an Excel spreadsheet, and I think Kayla would love to see that automated a little more. So we're going to concentrate on that in the next week. We'll also be purchasing another license for our software. Currently, there's only 2 licenses, and I'm in there and Kayla's in there. Up north, we can't get in. They can't get in to do their work, so we will get another license for that. Last, I'd like to turn to the statement of revenue expansion and examine the budget versus the actual. Administrative fees caught up in 1 month. We closed on the sale of the Heidenheim building to the Jamestown Electric Holding Company, and so that fee has been recognized. As always, Mike and Hans, we will be adjusting the June budget now that we have a better idea of what is going to happen for the rest of the year. We'll bring a budget amendment to the board next month. As you know, we passed this budget in October so that we can meet the requirements of the Public Authority Reporting Information System and get that budget on there. But that was a long time ago, and as Nate is very successful in bringing in different funds, and that we will be changing the budget to reflect that for the rest of the year. So again, most of the variances here are just due to those grants. So I don't see anything that I have concerns with. I think we're right on line. I think we're right on line to have another good year. We have some huge projects that will be closing this year. We have not closed on the 270 megawatt solar farm in Ripley yet, but they plan to close this year. So I think we're going to do a little better than what we budgeted on that. So that's all I have, Mike, unless anybody has any specific questions.
Yeah, I want again to note that if you look, our grant income through 5 months is greater than we have budgeted for the whole year. So that's tremendous, extremely well done. And of course, our professional fees are going to be greater as we're doing more projects than we anticipated. So as Rich identified, we will be bringing to this board in the next meeting a revised budget to better reflect this year, but it's because of our excellent performance this year. So thank you, Rich. Any questions of Rich? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented. Thank you, Dennis. We have a motion by Dennis and a seconded by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried unanimously. Now I'd like to accept a motion to move into executive session for discussion of any particular property purchases or specific information on companies and or relative to employees. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Kevin. And we have a second by Dennis. We have our team here at the Fredonia Technology Incubator. He's recorded. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Opposed? We are now in executive session.
Could you wait a moment, Mike?
Pardon?
Could you wait just a moment?